All right, welcome everyone to the Borough of Swissvale agenda meeting for October 30th, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Let's move through our roll call, see who is here with us this evening. Let's start with Miss Alfonso Wells.
Present.
I don't see Mr. Haynes yet, but I am anticipating him joining. Same goes with Mr. Miser. Mr. Quinn?
Present. Good evening.
Miss Stribling? She's here. We didn't hear you, but I can verbally communicate that confirm she's here. There you go. Thanks. Miss Swartzwelder, a council member, is absent tonight, but Mayor Swartzwelder
I'm here.
is here. Wonderful. Well, let's begin. We have no public comment that was submitted for this evening's that was brought up for this evening's meeting. So we're going to move right on to our agenda items. First item of business, agenda item 4A, discuss ratification of the hiring of the public services specialist. Mr. Batchy.
Thanks, sir. We had advertised last month or actually a month and a half ago, and we had hired Mark Lukac as a public service specialist. I would ask council to ratify this at next week's meeting. Mark began work on October 15th. He's written a lot of tickets for handicap parking, people parking in handicap zones without the necessary permits or placard. Residential parking, he started on meter parking. He's been following the trash truck in the morning to where people are not handling their trash properly and leaving door tags for them. And he's been doing a lot of good stuff, and we would like you to ratify his hiring on the next Wednesday.
Any comments about this? I know we had talked about this at the previous meeting in terms of wanting to give Mr. Batchy the opportunity to hire and not have to delay hiring until after our November meeting. Just in case there's any public, I was going to mention this under the president's report, but I'll do so now because it fits here. Just for if there are any residents that are watching this meeting about this public service specialist position, as we've talked about before, the goal is not to be punitive. It's not writing tickets just for the sake of writing tickets, but looking for some greater compliance in certain areas, things like handicap parking that we've said. And, we've done our best to be proactive as a borough to communicate to the residents of what some of those issues might be. It's on the newsletter that has just been released, as well as on the Facebook, on the website, kind of like an FAQ sheet, if you will, some frequent violations to look out for, some things that might be commonly seen. And so I would suggest taking a quick look at that, making sure you familiarize yourself with that so that you don't do something maybe you've been doing for 10 years, but has actually been a violation, and then all of a sudden end up with a ticket. So, yeah, that's all I've got to say about the matter. All right, well, put it on the agenda, Mr. Batchy, for next week. Let's move on to item 4B, discuss the hiring of a substitute crossing guard.
We advertised for substitute crossing guard positions, and we did have one interview. All of her background checks came back good. And she actually did start working this week to fill in a position for a vacationing crossing guard. And we would like you to ratify the hiring of Tina Casali as a substitute crossing guard. And we also may have another one for you next week, which would be a conditional offer of employment based upon the interview. But we probably won't have background checks back by next week, but we would ask you for a conditional offer of employment to a second substitute, as long as then that person passes their background checks.
Sounds great. Any comments?
Just a quick question,
Greg.
Greg.
As long as she passes the background check and everything goes well, then we can definitely hire her.
Agreed. Just a question on the process, Greg. Do they pass the same clearances as those that work in the schools? I just don't know.
Ellis, can you answer that?
Yeah, it's the same clearance as the child clearance and the background check. Correct.
What about the FBI fingerprinting? Do they have to do that one as well?
It depends on how long it's been since they had it, and if they moved. There's certain criteria, but as long as they have the other two current, they're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I represent school employees, so I just wanted for my own interest and everybody else's. Thank you.
All right, we'll keep on moving. Let's go to item 4C, discuss approval of the DPW contract.
We had a couple negotiating sessions with the DPW that yielded fruitful negotiations. And we had 2 negotiating sessions where we came to a tentative agreement, and a third session just to discuss language of the proposed contract. Basically, the DPW employees agreed to a 5-year deal. There's a number of items in it for the borough that for our benefit. With work rule, that the clarifying seniority rates for layoffs, CDL versus non-CDL. There's a daylight seniority clause in there that was renegotiated in favor of the borough, so that when a person picks a job assignment, volunteers for a job assignment, they have to stay on it until it's done, rather than if it's a job that takes a week, 2 weeks, whatever, they have to stay on that. We can pull them off; they can't pull themselves off. Clarifies the discipline for refusal to work with a non-union employee if we have to bring people in because their members are off. It allows us to hire an additional full-time employee and also up the number of, additional part-time employee and up the number of hours that person can work to 28 hours a week. It adds a healthcare contribution if the healthcare plan increases by more than 15% in any year. Which is in all of our other contracts, but was never in their contract. And it specifies the superintendent and the foreman can be chosen by the borough management based on most qualified, based on an interview, not necessarily most seniority. The way it read currently is the most senior person was entitled to it. So we got a lot of things in there that we wanted. There's of course economic issues for the for them with wage increases, increases their holiday incentive pay, increases their CDL incentive pay, short-term disability, boot allowance, sick day buyback, just incremental increases that haven't been increased in 5 years. So they're just asking basically on those things, a cost of living type thing. Also it changes the way we pay the CDL incentive pay. Currently they get a $500 bonus every December. They asked that it be increased to $600, which we agreed to, but it's split into the hourly rate of 29 cents per hour rather than a bonus. And then anybody with 6 or more years service will get longevity pay at a rate of 17 cents per hour. So they asked for an incremental 300, then 350, 400. We agreed to $350 split up over 2,080 hours. So it was a good negotiation. I think everybody got what they needed. Mr. Quinn and Mr. Haynes sat in on all the negotiations, and I think along with Mr. D'Ambrosio and myself, and I think the 4 of us made a good team. And we got this done in a pretty expeditious manner, and I think it's pretty fair for everyone.
Wonderful. Has Mr. McTiernan had a chance to review that contract?
He has, and he
Okay.
provided a couple comments to me yesterday, which I forwarded to the union, and it was just basically on language about what happens. There was a clause in there. What happens if if the government mandates some type of healthcare plan, and he rewrote it for us to make it to cover the legalese. Otherwise, everything else looked pretty good to him, and we I've forwarded that on to the Teamsters, and the Teamsters members did ratify this about a week and a half ago. So we can, if you want to, we can put it on the agenda for next week, and then dispense of this item.
Well, I will say that our DPW department does an amazing job. We definitely honored them, for the work they did for Juneteenth and all the other activities that they participate in. So I think with these changes, it's definitely something that will show that they have been appreciated in those changes. So I'm glad to be able to be a part of that.
Certainly enjoyed the hay rides at the fall festival this past weekend. But I did have one question around one of the items on there, which was being allowed to go after the trash collection is done in a trial period. What's the typical time that it takes for one of the workers that's on garbage collection for the day? Like how many hours would that process take?
Right now, it's taken 7.5 to 8 hours. So it's
Okay.
not a real big, it's not a real big thing for us. If we get a crew that stays long term, and they start getting better at it, and just speedier, just through repetition, they'll be able to get done a little earlier. But what we negotiated was basically no one is allowed to leave until the truck driver is back from the garbage dump. So, and then the 1 or 2 people that are on the crew that don't go to the dump, they would have to go out and get misses, wash the trucks, lube the trucks, stuff like that, while they're waiting for the driver to get back. And then if the driver gets back before the end of the day, they would be permitted to leave at that time. I don't see, they're not going to be done at 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, they're not going to be done at noon. They usually work 6 to 2. Maybe 1:30. They'll be done some days on the shorter routes, but there are some, we have not negotiated the that's the one open thing on this. We have to negotiate with the Teamsters what the parameters are. I laid some general parameters out in the contract, but we need to sit down with them on the specific before we do a trial. And it's up to us to determine whether it's a success or not. And if it's not, if we don't feel it's success, then it goes back to them working the 8 hours. So,
okay. Yeah, I'm in support of it. It's more just if there was an exceptional circumstance, that required an employee, DPW employee's assistance, that they would, hopefully still be available to assist in those types of circumstances.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's something needs negotiated in there that, or needs put in there that just says, that we reserve the right to keep them, and if we're having a snowstorm and we need we're short on guys on the road, if we had guys out all night and they need relieved, to drive snowplows, they're going to have to stay, and then once they hit their 8 hours, then they're into overtime after that. But yeah, we do have the right to mandate them to stay, which is in the contract. And there's some more, I don't want to say protections, but more language in there that allows us more flexibility for management rights than was previously.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Haynes.
And I hear you, everyone's questions, and quite frankly, there are guardrails in there that protect management's rights. Being on this side of the table was an exciting experience. I'm just going to tell you, because I'm normally on the other side of the table. It was really good. This was a great experience, and I think that it's their turn, right? And so we need them. One of the biggest things that we have is a pride and joy in Swissville. I live on the edge of Swissville and Edgewood. My streets are clean. Okay, like snow, did you get to work? Perfect. But there are guardrails if there are misses and there are problems. There are guardrails in there to maintain Jordan and Greg's ability to manage this workforce. And I think it's really well deserved, quite frankly. They've done us very well for years. The leaving early, I was very honest with them and said I'm a little worried about paying people to leave early and what that means for the community. But if it's a half an hour, 20 minutes, and quite frankly, Jordan said sometimes they smell because they're picking up our trash. And so sitting around in a sweaty shed or, not office, but in the building. So I completely support this 100%. I commend Greg for an amazing ability to negotiate a contract. The other side was very amenable to our needs, and we had really great conversations. So being on this process, it was really cool. So thank you. I'm supporting this 100%.
Sounds good. Let's put it on the agenda for next week. Mr. Quinn, were you going to say something?
Yeah, really quick. I just wanted to share the same sentiments as everyone else. Again, Mr. Bacci, Mr. D'Ambrosio, thank you so much for your hard work and getting this done expeditiously too. Truly appreciate that. And again, our DPW deserves it. Clearly, we all are bragging about them, so let's give them something that they want and what they need. So I'm just, again, thankful. I was very excited. This was my first experience with contract negotiations. So thank you again, Greg, for showing me the ropes. And yeah, we got it done in a timely manner. So I'm very excited.
Sounds good. All right, let's move on to item 4D, which is discuss grant applications. We've got a few different types of applications that Mr. Batchy is going to be putting in. We're going to begin with the local share accounts, but before we get into what he would like us to apply for and pass resolutions for, Mr. Batchy, do you want to take a moment and share? I mean, a big thank you to Senator Costa and Representative Salisbury, who got funded a lot of projects for us through this LSA grant this year. Would you like to share what those were, Mr. Batchy?
Yeah, sure. Great news that I sent out last week to everybody. We received $935,000 in grant funds through the LSA account program, local share account program. Representative Salisbury sent out a list of everything that was funded in her district, and of all the municipalities in her district, only one municipality received more grant funds than we did on this round. So we did very well with them. The first one was $350,000 to begin renovations at the Wilkins School Community Center. Where this evolved from was the sidewalks around the Wilkins School Community Center are in pretty deplorable condition, and we've been talking to them about the need for replacement of those sidewalks. And because they have we own the building, but they have a 99-year lease, and there's about 40-50 years left, something like that. But they have the lease on it, and they're responsible for all maintenance of the property and the building. So we agreed that we would seek funding for them, and the sidewalk's probably going to be over $100,000 to redo it because it's a large area with 3 sides. The remainder of the money, we talked about putting some EV chargers there in Regent Square. We think they'll be well used there along the property on Milton Avenue. We have not decided how many yet. We need to talk to Duquesne Light and get some numbers from them and work that out. But also then the first thing they want to do is renovate the kitchen that's in the basement, and there's large community room in the basement. They want to begin renovations on that, and then there's a laundry list of other things that need done there. Restrooms, they need an elevator, which that's one of the projects for the next year. The second one is to purchase and renovate the food pantry building. We received a $300,000 grant to buy 2028 Noble Street from the current owner. The purchase price is $130,000, and the remainder of the funds will be used to begin renovations, which we'll need to get an architect involved. But my immediate recommendation is to put a new roof on it, and also there's the facade above the front door is in poor shape. At least remove that and possibly replace it if funds allow. The third grant was $250,000 for the M48 sanitary source separation. We already received a $216,000 grant from Alcosan for that work. So now we'll have about $466,000, which the first step would be boring underneath the railroad. So now that we have this amount of money, we need to start working with the railroad to obtain that right away. But that's great news that we have that money available. And then the fourth one is we applied for a grant for a traffic calming study and also implementation of the traffic calming. Some of those, they funded the study, but not the implementation. So it's a $35,000 grant to do the study, which actually will go along well with our active transportation plan that we're working on right now. So I think one can just piggyback off the other. So that's something we'll need to talk about in the next month or two, what we want to do if we want to award that contract now, and is a continuation of the active transportation plan, or if we want to wait. But yeah, we received $935,000 in funds. Excellent news, and big shout out to Senator Costa and Representative Salisbury for their efforts to get us those funds.
Thank you, Mr. Batchy, for that overview. Why don't you jump right into the LSA, this next iteration that we are looking to apply for? What are the projects that you would like us to apply for?
Yeah, so what we'd recommend is to apply for a second grant for the food pantry. I talked to Senator Costa about this previously, and he recommended that, you know, once we get the first grant, to apply for another one to continue the renovations. So, you know, there's a long list of stuff that needs done at that building too. That, you know, they've worked out there for a number of years, and not, you know, there's been no upgrades to it. So a lot of interior work to be done, mechanical work, HVAC, some electrical work. They've made some electrical upgrades to the building, but you know, there's a lot more to do. But there's you know, we're going to need to sit down and negotiate a lease with them. So you know, because we'll be the building owners, and we'll have to, you know, we'll be leasing it back to the food pantry. You know, they do pay rent now, and they pay all the utilities. One of the things I would recommend is that they continue to pay some level of rent to the borough, that just goes into a maintenance fund for the building. And then, you know, when something breaks, we have some cash to pay for it. You know, rather than having to try to come up with the funds. You know, we'll have to sit down and negotiate with them, figure out what they can afford. But like I said, I don't see this, it should be a profit making thing for the borough, but, you know, just to help with defray maintenance costs, it would just go into one, you know, a separate bank account or a separate line item where we track it. And then when maintenance needs arise, we have it. So that'll be first. Next will be the Wilkins School Community Center to move on to the second phase. And apply for $350,000 there. One of the things they were talking about installing was an elevator, as well as making the restrooms handicapped accessible and doing more upgrades to the classrooms. And the last LSA we're proposing is some equipment upgrades for the borough. The first being our ladder truck at the fire department. The truck is 15 years old. It went into service in 2012. It was a demonstrator that went, you know, cross country for 3 years, but not actually used in fire service, and went into service when we bought it in 2012. So the NFPA recommends that that a fire truck not be used in first line status after 15 years of age, unless it's thoroughly gone over and refurbished, which could extend life for 7 to 10 years. So what we're proposing is to apply for part of the grant to apply to refurbish the ladder truck, because a new ladder truck is $1.8 million to, you know, at base price now. So we think this is a good economical way to move, you know, to move forward and keep this truck for another 10 to 12 years, based upon the age of service, not the age of the truck. So that would take the truck out of service for 3 to 6 months at some point when we refurbish it. But if we get the grant spend about $250,000 on it to go over everything, you know, the hydraulics, look at the frame, look at the mechanics, you know, have some engine testing done and fix any issues with the engine, the rear end, the transmission, and just go over it front to back and rebuild everything. Because that's something that would be a critical need for the community if we don't do this in the next couple years. 15 years of service will be 2027, so would like to apply now, and then before 2027 comes around, have the work done. Second thing would be to buy a skid steer for Public Works. They're about $80,000. You know, skid steer is a little piece of equipment that you can do many things with, but it's much smaller than a backhoe. You can get into tighter spaces with it. It has a lot of useful things that can be done as far as loading, you know, backing up the backhoe if the backhoe breaks down, for, you know, loading salt. We've been borrowing one from Alex Bobick, who does a lot of work for us. And when he takes it out to go to another job, we miss it. So, you know, it has a lot of uses. So, you know, would like to, if we can get the grant for it. And then the third thing would be for the public service specialists to buy a vehicle. Right now we have an old police vehicle we're using, and that's what we would continue to use for the future. But if we can get a grant to buy a small, maybe EV, you know, an SUV that's an EV, or a hybrid for that person to use, you know, for that truck or SUV could last us 12 to 15 years with very minimal effort, you know, based upon the mileage they put it on. But all that would be no cost to the borough. So if we can get the grant. So that's the LSA. So next one, do you just want me to just keep going through these, Chris?
Yeah, why don't you go through all of them, and then if there's any questions, folks can ask after we've gotten through all the resolutions.
Okay, next one's Main Street Matters. This is, I communicated to council about 2 weeks ago about this grant opportunity. Main Street Matters program provides money for downtown revitalization, and there's $20 million available throughout this state. So if we start applying right now for streetscape money, stuff like that, we're probably not going to have a good chance of getting it. Had a long conversation with Bernie McShay, who's the new executive director of the Braddock Enterprise Zone, and we both thought that a planning study would be a good idea at this point, because the last study that we did at the business district was in 2008, so it's a little dated. And when you put a grant application in, they want to know if it meets the goals and objectives of any type of plan. And you say, yeah, it does, because it did 16 years ago. But there's some new things there, new things out there that we need to go after, new strategies, new, different things that we need to look at. So this would be a $50,000 grant with a 25% local match. So that's something we'd like to look at. Under community development block grant, in the memo I sent you prior to the council meeting, there was one thing listed. There's actually two. The first is to apply for $300,000 for the Schley Avenue sanitary sewer. We applied last year and did not get funded through CDBG. We did receive a $400,000 grant through PA Small Water and Sewer System project. So if we get the other three, we can do the entire line. If we don't, we'll do the worst section of this with the 400,000. The other one is for more handicap ramp repairs. There was some leftover CDBG funds last year that it's really not our year to get them, but Turtle Creek Cog informed me to go ahead and apply for them to do more handicap ramps like we did this year on Noble Street. And these ones would be on Palmer Street, Irvine Street, and the intersection of Irvine and Monongahela. I'm just trying to work. The goal was try to get a handicap route from the borough building to the fire station and DPW, and this will achieve that final section. Future, I'd like to go down Monongahela and just replace all the ones, so we could, because South Braddock, they're all replaced, Noble, Waverly, Woodstock, Washington, Dixon, Center, they're all replaced. So now start working on the other side of the bridge, and like I said, we'll have that handicap route to the fire station and to Public Works from the borough building, and then we'll start down Monongahela and try to get these smaller grants for that. These CDBG grants, some of these, they're $20,000-$30,000. You can't do a whole lot with it, but these are perfect projects for it to help our accessibility efforts throughout the borough. And the last one is Active Allegheny Grant. Sedco brought this to me. We were meeting to discuss about future phases of the Cary Furnace access trail, and Sedco suggested that we do a planning grant to design the trail from the eventual trail from Memorial Park, Collingwood Park, down to what we've already done at the Rankin and Swissvale border and up into Rankin, and also the connections with the Cary Furnace site and the Gap Trail, Great Allegheny Passage, and also the Turtle Creek connector of that. So Sedco wants to take the lead on this and apply for the grant, but they still need a resolution from the borough. $50,000 grant that we can apply for. I have a feeling if we get it, we may get a little bit less, maybe in the range of $30,000 to $35,000, just because of the competitive nature of this. But even so, we could still complete the study. And if we hire the right consultant to bring, someone that's working with the other grant, the other trails going on in that area, we could have a really good sustainable plan for this and be able to seek grant funding. So those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 grant applications that we'll be trying to put in the next month.
Thanks so much, Mr. Batchy, for your hard work in this, getting these funds, as we just saw, almost $1 million through the LSA alone last year. Well, this year, I guess, technically. Any questions from council on any of those grants?
I just want to say thank you, Greg.
So let's make sure we put that on the agenda for next week's legislative meeting. We can vote on those resolutions. All right, let's move on to item E, discuss renewal of trash collection agreement with Pitcairn.
Pitcairn has expressed an interest in renewing the trash collection agreement. It was originally a 1-year agreement, and they wanted to see if they could do this on their own in the future. They're not quite there yet, so they've asked if we could do this for another year. In the initial agreement, it called for it said if we did renew it, it'd be a 4% increase. So that bumps it up from $265,544 to $276,165.76. And I would recommend we do this because it does generate a profit for us. It helps our budget, and it keeps 2 additional DPW workers employed.
Any comments or questions? I see a thumbs up. Let's add it to that agenda. All right, let's move on to item 4F, discuss an ARPA request.
Last thing we have on here is a request from Mayor Swartzwelder to spend some of her ARPA allotment for holiday decorations, and I will defer to Mayor Swartzwelder if she would like for that explanation.
Yeah, so 20 years ago, I raised money for snowflakes on all the light poles throughout the business district in Swissvale, and it was a lovely addition to our holiday, but they are no longer in use, and I would like to buy new ones. So I thought with Jordan and Greg and myself, we could sit down and pick out snowflakes for as many light poles as we can throughout the business district.
If I could make a comment on that, Mayor. One of the things I did do a little bit of research on these. What I found, a lot of these are like in the $500 range each. So for the 3,000, we're only going to get about a half a dozen. I'm just asking the question if you want to request a larger allotment, or if you just want to go with that and then try to find funds in the future. So, but I did find there's a company called Mosca Lighting. They do mostly holiday decorations and stuff. That's where I had got. They're one of the better ones. But they were in the $500 to $550 range per snowflake.
Okay, so can we raise it? All right, let's raise it to 5,000 then. Is that possible?
Yeah, that's your request you're making. So whatever number you're comfortable with is.
I'd like to amend my ARPA fund request to $5,000.
Mr. Batch, are you able to sometime after this meeting send kind of what that quote is, the website, just some specs that we can all look at? Additionally, so that would be about 9 or 10 of those at the $5,000 range. Do we know which light poles, like where these are going to be? Is it going to be along Noble Street? Is it Monongahela? Is it going to be I imagine there's a lot more than just 10 light poles there. I'm just trying to get a sense of the route that these will be used for.
In the past, it was Monongahela and Noble Street had the snowflakes.
Yeah, we have 53 light poles total, so.
All right, so we're not looking to spend $25,000, I take it?
Thank you.
Yeah, so I know up here in the square, they have their own, they do the tree lights all along Braddock there. And I know the businesses there in the business district will pitch in and help with that, whether it's providing electricity or providing, funding to get the lights up kind of as a community thing. Would it be feasible? Obviously we want to get as many as we can, but we also, as Chris said, we don't want to spend outrageous amounts of money. Would it be something that we could possibly go to some of the business owners in the business district and see if they'd be willing to sponsor a snowflake? We could even make it a whole thing. $500, you get and we could even put something on it, contributed by whatever business it may be, but just kind of giving the community a chance to get involved in making our business districts more festive.
And I was going to say too, Greg, if you can send me how much I have left, I would also be willing to donate a little to that cause as well. I think it's important to beautify our community for the holidays. So even if we can get, 10, poles for lights is better than, you know what I mean? So just let me know, Greg, and I'll be happy to see what I can put in.
I'll send it to you tomorrow.
Okay,
Can
thanks.
you do the same for me as well, Greg? Because at least if we can get someone Noble and Monongahela, I think
Yeah.
that'll just bring out. And I'm a holiday person, so I love decorations. So Mayor Squirtsweater, I'm definitely in support of this, and I'll be willing to help.
Yes.
Well, thank you both. I appreciate it. And Swissvale appreciates it.
Could I have a side colloquy in public with Josh? I want to always double check with you. I appreciate that you've deferred your funds, your allocation of funds to me. Would you have any objection to me putting out offering $1,000 towards this project?
When I gave them up, they are your funds, Mr. Haynes. I'm in support of whatever you decide.
Thank you, sir. Can we amend that to allow for $1,000 from the Miser Haynes funds?
So what I'm going to ask is the 4 council members and Mr. Batchy who have been talking about this. I guess 3 council members and mayor and Mr. Batchy who have been talking about this. Can you all get together and just connect in terms of the amount so that when the agenda is published next week, we know with precision what that is in the next couple of days? Does that seem feasible?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Let's do that. Sounds like there's ample support, and we'll
Yay!
make sure that's on the agenda for next week.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's keep moving on. That is our agenda items, the bulk of the meeting. We're going to move on to our departmental reports. We will begin with police. Chief Watson, you can have the floor.
Good evening, Mr. President. 2 things tonight. One, we've been working over the past year and a half to switch from UCRs, which is Uniform Crime Reporting, to the updated system that the FBI has actually been working towards implementing over the past over 5 years. NIBRS is just a more in-depth version of UCRs, captures more data, provides more information. We are fully up to date with NIBRS at this point, up to last month. So 2023 and 2024 up till this month are on the NIBRS site. I'm going to add a link this week to the crime statistics part of the webpage that the police department has under the Swissvale Borough website. So that is completed. I think that's important. We're kind of ahead of the curve. I know they're working towards pushing every police department to use this, but it's a long process. So I think it's good. It provides more information to people about, who the victims are, what type of crimes we're seeing, more detailed statistics about who commits the crimes. So it was important that we get this done, and we have completed it prior to it being required. So I want to advise council of that. And I have one other thing to discuss, and I'm sorry I can't remember at this second, but thank you.
Do you want me to go
That's
to
all right.
Chief Wilhelm and then we can circle back to you?
I'll let you know.
Okay.
It wasn't anything pressing. It was just
Okay.
information I wanted to give to council.
That's
but
fine. Yeah,
sorry.
just feel free to interject if it pops back in your memory.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Any questions for Chief Watson or comments? Thanks so much for getting that NIBRS system up and running. I know you and I talked about that a couple months ago as well, that it's just been a very painstaking process, but thank you for persevering and making it happen.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to code and fire. Chief Wilhelm.
We're going to be meeting with the fire committee tomorrow morning to discuss personnel issues, including a interview of a part-time firefighter candidate. And I would hope that if the fire committee approves that person for a position tomorrow, that could be added to hire that part-time firefighter next Wednesday. it's just to fill vacant positions, and we have another individual off on family leave and some other things. So in the holidays coming up, we need to backfill some of those positions that have opened over the last 10 months. Also, we're going to be advertising for additional applicants. Going to be pushing that advertisement out this week, so all of council knows, so that we can get a new stack of applications to go through for potential candidates as positions need filled. Still working with the solicitor's office on updating some ordinances for the IPMC, the IFs. That's the property maintenance code, fire code, and also short-term rental ordinance. Hopefully we can get that together over the next several weeks or a month and get those out to council for review and input. And obviously been working, it's budget season, so I've been working with the manager, getting the budgets in. And one of the things that has come up into my attention, and Greg, do you mind if I talk about the fees at this point and my recommendations for consideration that we're going to be bringing forth?
No, feel free.
A lot of our permits, we haven't increased the cost since 2010. That's 15 years now, coming into 2025. And the inflation over that period's been over 45%. And I've been doing some comparisons to other places. As an example, we've charged $60 for an occupancy permit since 2010. Most other places are charging $75. Our building permits are still at 40 cents a square foot and 50 cents a square foot. Others are charging more. As an example, if we opted out and let the state do it, they're charging 78 cents a square foot. So I know these all might sound like pennies, but they all add up over the course of the year. And our cost to provide those services, much of which we do in-house, has increased as well. So in an effort to try to help, with the budget, I'm going to work with the manager and come up with some recommendations for a new fee resolution, which we normally adopt every few years anyways, and make some increases. And I'll do a memorandum and outline all the differences and the different things to forward out through the manager to council for your review. But it only makes sense because our costs have been going up and the fees haven't, and we need to increase those to cover those costs. Also, don't forget we have our last fall fish fry this Friday at the fire station from 11 to 7. And I wanted to bring one other thing up under the ARPA funds. I know I'd mentioned to council before, we're working on getting pricing to get that bell redone and mounted. And the pricing that I got for the two things for the concrete and renovation of the bell came in at $16,000, and I think that's high. So we're going to be looking at some other routes and working with some other local businesses to try to get a reduced cost before I send that out. Because even though I'm asking you for money, I want to be a good steward of that money, and I think that that's a little excessive. And lastly, just so everybody's aware that we did do some concrete repairs at the fire station recently, and this was covered by the volunteer fire department. This is where, the allotment goes towards, and the fish fry money and other things. We spent $20,000 repairing concrete and sealing it and replacing expansion joints. And we're also repairing and replacing some stairs in the rear. Overall, they're spending about $27,000 every year. We do a couple major projects of upkeep, and it's of no cost to the borough, but I think that needs to just be advertised so that you know where the money goes. Because we give them allotment and we don't pay the utilities or anything there. They cover everything from their internal budget. So it's been a great working relationship, and just so everybody has that knowledge in the back of their minds. And that's all I have to report.
Great, thanks so much, Mr. Haynes.
Clyde, in your recommendation for an increase in those fees, the only thing I would ask is if we can, I'm not sure exactly how to do this, but how can someone tell us what a barrier to entry would be for potential businesses if we were to increase those things? I think that's going to be important to understand prior to passing a resolution. Whatever barrier to entry in the way of business or in the way of whatever. I don't want to create more barriers by raising money, by raising fees.
I don't think it increases any barriers, Mr. Haynes. Basically, under the law, our permits are to assist and pay for the cost of administering those things, like the Uniform Construction Code, and even the occupancy permits. I mean, I don't think it's a barrier if the occupancy permit went from $60 to $75.
Okay. Okay, that's what
I
I'm
mean,
asking for.
yeah, they're not going to
It's
be
15 bucks
major.
is 15 bucks, right?
Yeah, they're not
I-
major increases, but nonetheless, we need to tweak those up to keep up with the cost of us providing those services.
And I absolutely support that. What I'm asking, I just want to make sure there was not some sort of, it's now $5,000 versus, $1,000. I just want to understand what we're looking at.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean,
talking like 10 cents a square foot for construction cost, $15 more for the occupancy permit. And like even our neighboring communities have been charging the last few years $75 for an occupancy permit.
Okay,
Um,
that was my question.
We are one of the very fortunate communities. There's no major barriers for businesses here. We don't have a gross receipts tax like many municipalities do. There's a $100 flat fee for business privilege tax. You may want to look at increasing that even a little bit. It's only a flat fee of $100 a year, but that's been established for 30 years. And I don't want to hinder any businesses at all by any means, but in other communities, they pay gross receipts on their income. So if they make $1 million, there may be a 3% gross receipts tax where they have to pay $1,500 or something. We're so minuscule. And I'm a firm believer in that and keeping that open to try to attract businesses.
And thank you. I appreciate all the work you and your team do. I just want to make sure that I understood what the barrier, sorry, my dogs are barking, what the barrier, if there was a barrier, if it's $15, I'm not worried about $15.
Yeah, it's going to be minuscule, but it's going to be percentage, but nonetheless, it's going to keep up with our cost.
Great, thank you.
And Clyde, is there a way you could just do a price comparison with neighboring communities to kind of just reflect that, just for full transparency? You know what I
Sure.
mean? So
Yeah.
people can just see how over time those prices have increased, which is why it's time that maybe we can consider to do the same.
Yeah, most of them increase them every 3 to 5 years, and we haven't done them in 15.
Okay, good. Okay, gotcha.
Oh, and like another example, the other one is the vacant property registration, which is usually paid by the banks for foreclosures. That's the primary reason that we do the program, so they get on our radar. The state average right now is $400 a year for that. We're still at $200. So, there's all kinds of different things, and I will, I'll give you that information in the memorandum form.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chief, and thank you for the effort you're putting into making that budget manageable. Doing your part to contribute as part of your role. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, we're going to do a little bit of do-si-do in here. Mr. D'Ambrosio could not be here this evening. Mr. Bakshi is going to cover his report during the manager's report, but Mayor Swartzwelder will not be with us next week, and so she is going to be taking the public works slot to share her mayor updates. So Mayor Swartzwelder, the floor is yours.
My turn. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for letting me butt in on the agenda and giving my report. We had a very busy weekend in Swissvale, and can I say it was a beautiful day in our neighborhood. Thank you, Mother Nature, for a great day. Last year's parade was not so fortunate to have such a beautiful day, but this was our 31st Halloween parade, and it was amazing, led by the Woodland Hills High School Band, who they dress up and they lead the parade through the streets of Swissvale, and they were wonderful. Thank you to all of them, and over the 150 boys and ghouls who participated and paraded through our streets. The streets were lined with so many people watching, and it was just one of the best parades we've ever had. And thanks to everybody who participated, blocked the streets, made sure we were safe, and got us down to Memorial Park, where we started our community day / fall festival. Kids got to get treats throughout the field. They trick-or-treated to all the booths and got candy and treats. And then the Woodland Hills High School Band performed their halftime routine. It was pure magic. I hope everybody enjoyed it. They're just, they make you proud to be part of Woodland Hills. They are the best of the best. And thanks to all the community groups and organizations and volunteers that made this day such a success. It was perfect. Crafts, games, face painting, balloon art, caricatures, pumpkin painting, hayride. Thank you, Forest Hills, for lending us the hayride, music, and it ended with a beautiful display by Starfire Fireworks. They are the best of the best. And we had them first before the city of Pittsburgh had them. So they are the greatest. So thanks to all. I just want to thank all of my volunteers, my core volunteers who have been doing this for 20 plus years. Swissvale Borough and Council, without you, we couldn't, we wouldn't have any money or participation. And our business sponsors they went above and beyond this year. Sarah, Shay, Lindsay, Greg, Chief Watson, thanks for getting us a hayride. Chief Wilhelm, thanks for all the electric you did. Jordan, DPW, you all just were amazing. I thank you very much. And the volunteer fire department, Woodland Hills band directors, Robert Carr, Tom Crone, always top notch. And finally, thank you, Swissvale residents, for coming out, participating, enjoying. It was fantastic. And you are what makes Swissvale a great place to live and play. So thanks so much. Just a comment, after the fireworks, I heard a little kid say, "Mom, this was the best day of my life." And it's just like, oh. So this is why we do it. If you want to check out the video, Sarah posted the day's events. Fantastic job. Thank you so much, Sarah, for all of that and for everything you did to help make this day wonderful. So that's it. I just want to mention trick-or-treating is tomorrow night, 6 to 8 in Swissvale. Turn on your lights, give out your treats. It's going to be a nice warm day, so it'll be fun. Night of Lights this year is December 7th. It'll be at the Swissvale Fire Department and vendor market like last year, and treats for all. Santa will be lighting the tree at 6 o'clock. More to follow. Swissvale newsletter is out, so do check that out. It has all the upcoming events and things to know for the fall. And don't forget to turn your clocks back this weekend. And in case you didn't know, Election Day is Tuesday, November 5th. And that's my report. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Thank you, Mayor. It was amazing. It was awesome. The energy from the community, including our little ones, it was just amazing. And thank you. And there was apple tossing on the other side of the yeah. But it was really awesome. And so thank you. Thank you for dreaming of this 30 years ago or 20 years ago, and not 30, sorry, 20 years ago, and making this a reality for our community, Mayor. Thank you.
Well, the parade is 31 years. We've been doing the parade.
Then I wasn't wrong.
Community Days is 20.
Yes. But thank you. Thank you for dreaming this for our community and making this such a wonderful place. This is one of our gems.
Yeah, I don't do it alone. It's a village. It takes a village. So thank you, my village people. And that's my report.
Thanks so much.
I was about to do that, but I said, I saw you do it.
And I'll add, as Mr. Haynes said, apple chucking. We built a trebuchet, and my guys are already talking about next year and making it bigger and more efficient. So,
I would love to see the trebuchet go on a float during the Halloween parade next year, firing candy down the street to the children. I think
there we go.
May the record reflect that was Cookie Monster saying that, asking for apples.
I forgot to wear tonight. I apologize.
Okay. We should have gotten dressed up for tonight. Anyways, let's move on to the manager's report. Mr. Batchy.
Thank you. I will pre-apologize because I have a lot to say, and I'm sure you're tired of listening to me already. Mr. D'Ambrosio is under the weather and is not here tonight. I'm not sure if he'll be here next week either. So, for next week's meeting. So just want to report on his behalf. Street sweeping does end tomorrow. So tomorrow is the last day you have to move your cars, or be ticketed. So, we will also begin the leaf collection on Monday, the 4th. You do not have to move your cars for leaf collection, but please don't park on top of the piles or very close, because our leaf machine's pretty big. And, to get it close, we're not going to take the chance of damaging someone's car in order to get a pile of leaves. So, if you have a lot of leaves, please, leave some space from the vehicles. And one other thing with the leaf collection is I just need to say that it's leaves only. If there's grass sitting on top of them, twigs, sticks, branches, anything else, we're not going to collect them. Because our machine mulches the leaves right in the machine and throws it into the truck, and we take it to a permitted site in Wilkins Township where they compost it throughout the year, and then they use it in their park system. But if it's contaminated, they will not accept it from us. So then we have to pay to dispose of it, and that's not the purpose of the leaf collection program. The leaf collection program is to reuse the leaves and make them into a new product, not to landfill them. So please, don't put anything else in there. And leaves need to be on the curb by 7 o'clock every day, and at the curb line on the street, and we can't come back. So if you're there raking as the guys are driving by, we have a full day every day trying to get everybody's leaves. So please have them out and ready by 7 a.m. We'll try to help you if you're right there, just getting them out. But we can't once we're past your street, we can't come back because the volume of leaves is just too much. So that's on the DPW side. On the borough side, just the borough building we have put back out for bid. So we do have a bid opening on December 3rd at 2 p.m. If any council member or the mayor want to attend, we will be, we did a bit of value engineering with the contractor. I'm sorry, with the architect. Did some value engineering to try to bring the price down. We also did made some add alternates. Like there's the plaza on the right side of the building facing Roslyn Street, the half court basketball court, the EV chargers, number of items like that were put in as alternates, so that if we'll get a number on it. If we can afford to award it, we will. If we can't, we won't. We do have a couple other grant applications pending, so if we can't afford that stuff, hopefully the grant will cover those, and we just won't award that section. The grant we were waiting for, unfortunately, we did not receive. So we were waiting to put it back out to bid to see if we received it or not, but we did not receive it. And quite frankly, I'm not used to not getting what I apply for. Usually we're pretty successful, but we can't get everything. So that's, I accept that, we just can't have it all. So as Mr. Wilhelm mentioned, we are doing a firefighter interview tomorrow. So that will be an agenda item also for next week. As long as the fire committee is okay with this person. I had a meeting with the Allegheny County Health Department today concerning the climate resilience plan that the council has signed on to undertake. One of the things with the plan is they will do for free, all the participants, they will either do a stream cleanup, a dump cleanup, or a litter cleanup for the borough for free, up to a $7,500 value, since we are participating in this. So we don't have any streams in Swissvale. So they said they could do a river cleanup, or a dump clean, we could do a dump site. We've pretty much got most of any dump sites cleaned up. So we talked about doing the litter cleanup so that we don't get, so then we don't have to do a river cleanup because the stuff will not enter the storm and sanitary system. One of the things that they've offered along with this, though, is they will come in with a Vactor truck and clean several hundred inlets for us at no charge. They'll pay for the Vactor truck. So, we do this annually with, we get to maybe 100 of them with the Vactor truck. So they're willing to come in and do several hundred. And I told them, I said, well, we could participate, with our staff and, open up the inlets and inlets and manholes and have them ready for you. And they said, well, they may be able to do even more than if all they have to do is drive down the road and suck the debris out of the inlets and not have to mess around and open and close them. So that'll be done probably November, December, at some point in November, December. They couldn't commit to a date, but they also want to do a community-wide cleanup that they'll sponsor like we do in April. They would like to do it in the fall. And I think it's a great idea because then we're going into the winter months. We get a lot of litter and debris that we don't normally have. So we will be putting out the call for volunteers like we do in the spring. And I'll be talking to Sedco and Rotary and maybe Power, because Power has been a great asset in helping with some of these cleanups. And anyone else that wants to be involved, we don't have a date yet, but I will announce it as soon as we know. And but with part of this climate resilience plan, this is all free for this for this cleanup since we're participating in it. So great thing that they're doing for us. Next thing is we do have our meeting next week, our regular meeting on November 6th. But just a reminder, our agenda meeting for at the end of November is November 20th. We're going to have our budget meeting, our budget presentation on the 20th, and then we'll roll into the agenda meeting for the December meeting after that. Speaking of meeting dates, I started looking at the calendar for next year to see if we have any issues with any dates. And in January, our regular meeting day is on New Year's Day. I'm not doing much that day, so if you want to meet, I'm good. I can be there. I see one emphatic no. So we'll be drafting the meeting schedule for adoption at December. Would council be willing to meet on January 6th, which is a Monday, rather than the regular January 1st?
I don't think that's a good idea.
I'm not opposed to January 6th.
Yeah, I'm for it.
I just don't think January 6th, if that is, and we can talk offline, Greg. January 6th has a different significance, and I think it's probably not a good idea for us to meet.
What's
I feel in light of that, it's the exact opposite. I think we should continue governing as
That's
usual
what I was
on January 6th.
Yeah,
and you know what? Quite frankly, you know what? I changed my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's do it. Yep.
My schedule is open.
And just to throw out there, the reason that Mr. Batchy suggested that, he and I talked about it in our reorganization meetings that happen every other year, happen on the first Monday of January, which is what this would fall to. So if we were going to move from January 1st, which is totally understandable, that seemed to be a very natural movement place.
And Fred and Angela, thank you. I appreciate your position, and I agree with you 100%. Let's keep going.
Of course, no problem. No problem.
Democracy lives. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you.
And then one last positive piece of news, and if you've seen this month's Swiss Valiant newsletter, on the front page, the first thing on the front of it was the Washington Street Bridge. Everything's good to go. The steel has been ordered. The contractor has been hired. They anticipate delivery of the steel in March, and the railroad is looking to begin construction in April, and they feel that it can be completed around November. So happy holidays to everyone. Hopefully next year. Hopefully I don't have to eat my words, but one of the things, the PUC's approved it, and this is a private contractor. It's not a public bid. It's not governed by our rules and laws of procurement. So they can do this a lot faster than we can. And I think the railroad, Norfolk Southern, wants to get this off their plate and wants to move forward, turn that bridge over to us and move forward. Now, one other issue with that is we agreed with the railroad to negotiate to purchase a right of way from a property owner to corner of Palmer Street and Washington Street. I took care of the negotiations. We came to an agreed upon price. Norfolk Southern agreed to pay that amount. However, Norfolk Southern wants us to purchase it, and that was the agreement that we made because it's road right away that we're purchasing. So it would be, it would be, we would buy it and then it's our right away. Norfolk Southern wouldn't own road right away. So this eliminates a step in them deeding it over to the right away to us. So I'm going to talk to Michael Baker, who was the engineer for the bridge, and have them provide me a right-of-way plan, and then have Mr. McTiernan's office draft the necessary agreements, and then we can schedule a closing on this. Norfolk Southern will reimburse us all costs, including the purchase costs and attorney's fees for this. So there's nothing out of pocket for us at the end of the day. The only thing is, we have to front the money. However, Norfolk Southern already gave us $50,000, so we can just use that $50,000 to front the money. So there'll be no cash flow issues or anything out of pocket for us, and we'll be made whole once this is done. So that's something that I will schedule with Mr. McTiernan's office and with President Ansel, because he'll need to sign the conveyance documents. So, but that'll be happening. Hopefully in the next 2 months, we'll take care of that and get them paid. And that's the only thing the railroad needed from us, and we'll have that done.
I would like to say hallelujah, because it has been a real problem for us in the fire apparatus. So it'll be so nice to have that road back open. And who
Well-
knows, maybe you'll get to march across it for the Halloween parade. Maybe they'll get done early.
Well, we
Never
can
know.
anticipate having a bridge party. We're gonna have a bridge party. Everybody's gonna go over the bridge, the cars, the people waving, the fire trucks, and hopefully it won't fall. We have that, but we need to have a nice big bridge party.
I'll second Clyde on that. It's imperative to public safety that gets open. It's difficult to get around, especially at rush hour with the way traffic is. So thank you, Mr. Batchy, for working so hard to get that done. I know it was a challenge. Thank you.
And one of the things too is there's no weight limit on the new bridge. It's designed for a minimum of 120,000 pounds, which is 60 tons, which there are no on-road vehicles permitted by federal law that weigh 120,000 pounds. You'd need special permits to do that. So there's nothing that on a regular basis can't go across there, like Port Authority buses, fire trucks, anything. It will be open to all for public safety and commerce. And that is the end of my report.
That was a good ending. That's a mic drop. That's a mic drop.
Yes, it is.
I staged them that way so that put the good stuff in, start good, end good.
Absolutely.
Sounds great. Well, it's
Damage principle. Sorry.
okay. President's report. I had a bunch of things, but we've addressed almost all of them, either through the meeting or I had talked a little bit about, put some stuff in for Fall Fest and whatnot, because I wasn't anticipating Mayor Schwartzwelder's report. So she stole my thunder this week. It's like paying me back. The only thing that I had that we haven't covered is since our last agenda meeting, there was we had the Pollinator Parklet ribbon cutting out there on the plot on Edgewood Avenue. I know Representative Salisbury worked very hard on that project along with Humane Action Pittsburgh, and it was a very nice gathering. It was nice to see it in action and eat some vegan cookies, which were much more delicious than I anticipated them being. They were awesome. So that's all I have.
And I wanted to be there, but I was stuck at work. Not stuck. Sorry, I was happy to be employed.
So that's all I had. We'll move right along to Solicitor Mr. McTiernan.
Mr. President, just to echo a couple of things that were brought up by Mr. Batchy. We are starting on the paperwork to complete the necessary acquisition of property that we need at the corner of Washington Street and Palmer, so that we can move forward with the bridge project. And also, we've started the title search on the property for the food bank building now that the grant has come to fruition. So we'll just keep council and the mayor and the manager posted on the progress there. And that's all I have this evening.
Wonderful. Let's move on to item 6, which is any other new business that we need to discuss. tonight?
I just
Just another reminder, like the mayor said, November 5th, from
Yep.
7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Please, please, please vote. Make your voice heard. Your vote is your voice. And we'll see you all on Tuesday.
And if you're in line, stay in line. They cannot kick you out. Stay in line, stay in line.
And if you have any questions about where you're supposed to vote or returning your ballots or issues on issues with, on election day, vote.pa.gov has links for all of that information, very accessible. So get out and vote.
And is that appropriate for us to put that on the website?
I know we have the polling locations. I don't know. We could probably link to the Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's nonpartisan, so that
Yeah,
shouldn't be a
it's
problem.
I'm game for that. If more access to information.
All
You're
right.
muted,
Well,
Greg.
I'll have Sarah place it on there tomorrow.
I know that Ms. Alfonso Wells still runs meetings quicker than I do, but 8:11 is not too bad. I would love to entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:11
Motion to
p.m.
adjourn at 8:11 p.m.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. See y'all next week.
Good night.
See ya.
See you next week,
You
everyone.
tried, Chris. You tried.